The alarm klaxons of Kronos 7 mining stations screamed through the corridors like dying banshees, their red warning lights painting everything in hellish crimson. Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, leaving a streak of grease across his forehead as he crawled deeper into the maintenance shaft. The station's primary life support had failed catastrophically, and as the only mechanical engineer on duty, the lives of 300 souls rested squarely on his shoulders. "Come on, you piece of junk," Jake muttered, his fingers working frantically to reroute power from the secondary generators. The cramped space barely accommodated his average human frame, but years of working in tight spaces had taught him to move efficiently even when panic threatened to overwhelm rational thought. Through the station's communication system, he could hear Captain Torres coordinating the evacuation of non-essential personnel. But evacuation meant abandoning the mining operation that dozens of families depended on for their livelihood. Jake refused to let that happen, not if he could help it. The sound of metal groaning under stress echoed through the shaft, followed by the distinctive hiss of escaping atmosphere. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs as he realized a section of the station's hull had been compromised. Emergency bulkheads would seal automatically, but anyone caught in that section would be trapped. "Torres to Morrison," the captain's voice crackled through his comm unit. "We've got a situation in Docking Bay 7. Alien passenger ship took damage during the system failure. Their life support is failing." Jake cursed under his breath. He was so close to restoring primary power, but someone was going to die if he didn't act fast. The choice was brutal but simple. Save one life, now or potentially save everyone later. "On my way," Jake replied, abandoning his tools and scrambling back through the maintenance shaft with desperate urgency. Docking Bay 7 was a scene of controlled chaos. Emergency crews worked to contain atmosphere leaks while medics tended to injured dock workers. In the center of it all sat a sleek alien vessel, its hull bearing the elegant curves characteristic of Zephyrian design, but marred by deep gouges from debris impact. Jake approached the ship's entry hatch, which hung partially open. Inside, he could see a figure slumped over what appeared to be a control console. The being was clearly alien, tall and lean, with the distinctive blue-tinged skin and elongated limbs of a Zephyrian, but dressed in expensive-looking garments that suggested wealth and status. "Hey, can you hear me?" Jake called out as he climbed aboard. The alien's breathing was labored, and Jake could see that the ship's environmental systems were failing. Without proper atmospheric mixture, the passenger would suffocate within minutes. The alien's eyes opened, large golden orbs that seemed to glow with inner light. "Human," the being spoke in accented but clear English. "My ship, the life support matrix, is damaged beyond my ability to repair." Jake examined the alien technology with the practiced eye of an engineer. The systems were far more advanced than anything humans had developed, but the basic principles remained the same. "I can fix this, but I need you to trust me. Human engineering might seem crude compared to your tech." The alien, who introduced himself as Vextar Zul, nodded weakly. "Do what you must. I have important business to conclude." Jake dove into the alien ship systems with the same determination he'd shown fixing countless human machines. Where Zephyrian technology relied on elegant quantum matrices, Jake applied brute force solutions, bypassing failed components with spare parts cannibalized from his own equipment, jerry-rigging connections that would horrify alien engineers, but got the job done. His hands moved with practiced precision, rewiring circuits and replacing damaged components. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he worked, aware that every second counted. The alien watched him with growing fascination, occasionally offering technical insights that helped Jake understand the more complex systems. "There," Jake announced, finally, wiping his hands on his coveralls as the ship's life support systems hummed back to life. "It's not pretty, but it'll keep you breathing until you can get proper repairs." Vexitar sat up straighter as clean air began circulating through the cabin. His golden eyes studied Jake with an intensity that made the human engineer slightly uncomfortable. "You have saved my life with methods I would never have considered. Your species' approach to problem-solving is remarkable." Jake shrugged. embarrassed by the praise. Just doing my job. Besides, couldn't let someone die on my watch. Your job? Vexitar's voice held a note of surprise. You are not some highly trained specialist? Mechanical engineer, third class, Jake replied with a self-deprecating grin. Nothing fancy. I just fix things that break. The alien was quiet for a long moment, studying Jake with those unsettling golden eyes. Finally, he spoke. Jake Morrison, I am in your debt. This kindness will not be forgotten. Something in the alien's tone suggested there was more meaning to those words than Jake understood. But before he could ask, Captain Torres's voice crackled over the comm system announcing that primary power had been restored to the station. 2 days later, Vextar's ship departed Kronos 7 after receiving proper repairs. Jake watched from the observation deck as the elegant vessel disappeared into hyperspace, already putting the encounter out of his mind. He had work to do, systems to maintain, and a mundane life to return to. He had no idea that he had just saved one of the wealthiest beings in the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the incident at Kronos 7, and Jake Morrison had settled back into his routine of maintenance schedules and equipment repairs. The memory of the grateful alien passenger had faded into just another story to tell during late-night shifts. That changed the moment Cathara stepped through the station's airlock. The Zephyrian female was unlike any alien Jake had encountered before. Where most of her species appeared elegant but fragile, she radiated an aura of authority that made seasoned station personnel step aside respectfully. Her deep purple skin held an almost metallic sheen, and intricate silver markings along her temples indicated high social rank among her people. Jake Morrison, she announced in a voice like liquid silk, I am Cathara Voss, legal representative of the Jewel Trading Consortium. We must speak privately. Captain Torres raised an eyebrow but gestured toward his office. Use conference room 3. Take all the time you need. Jake's stomach knotted with anxiety as he followed the imposing alien. Had he unknowingly violated some law during his repair of Vextar's ship? Were there diplomatic consequences he hadn't considered? Cathara activated a privacy field around the conference table before speaking. Jake Morrison, I regret to inform you that Vextar Jewel passed away 12 days ago. However, before his death, he filed legal documents naming you as his sole heir. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. I'm sorry, what? That's impossible. I barely knew the guy. I just fixed his ship. You saved his life, Cathara corrected. In Zephyrian culture, such an act creates bonds of honor that transcend casual acquaintance. Vextar was also unconventional in his thinking. She activated a holographic display showing financial records that made Jake's eyes water. Numbers with more digits than he could easily count scrolled past, representing assets spread across dozens of star systems. The Jewel Trading Consortium controls approximately 12% of all interstellar commerce in this sector, Cathara explained. Manufacturing facilities, shipping routes, mining operations, and research installations. As of today, you control all of it. Jake slumped in his chair, overwhelmed. This is insane. I'm a maintenance engineer. I don't know anything about running a business empire. There is more, Cathara continued, her tone becoming more formal. Zephyrian inheritance law includes certain traditional obligations. Vextar owned 3 bonded concubines. They are now your responsibility. My what? Jake's voice cracked. I don't own people. That's slavery. By human standards, perhaps. But these women were genetically conditioned from birth to serve the Jewel family. They cannot survive independently. Their neural pathways are literally hardwired for bonding and service. Abandoning them would be a death sentence. Before Jake could protest further, 3 figures entered the conference room. Jake's breath caught as he saw them for the first time. The first was tall and athletic, with steel-gray skin and short-cropped silver hair. Her amber eyes held the alert gaze of a predator, and Jake could see the subtle bulge of concealed weapons beneath her form-fitting black outfit. I am Mira, she announced with military precision. Tactical specialist and personal protection. The second woman possessed an ethereal beauty that seemed almost hypnotic. Her skin was a soft lavender hue, and her long white hair seemed to move with its own mysterious current. When she smiled, Jake felt his pulse quicken involuntarily. "Vera," she said in a voice like music, cultural advisor and diplomatic liaison. The third was perhaps the most striking. Her skin shifted between deep blue and purple depending on the light, and her eyes held an intelligence that seemed to pierce right through him. "Luna," she stated simply, technology specialist and research coordinator. All three moved with fluid grace as they approached Jake, then performed a synchronized bow that somehow managed to be both respectful and deeply unsettling. "Master Jake," Mira spoke for the group, "we exist to serve the Joule family. Your word is our law, your desire our purpose." Jake stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. "No, absolutely not. I don't want servants. And I sure as hell don't want anyone calling me master." The three women exchanged glances that conveyed volumes of silent communication. Vera stepped forward, her expression gentle but sad. "We understand your discomfort, Jake Morrison. But we are what we are. Genetic conditioning cannot be simply wished away." Luna nodded in agreement. "Our neural chemistry requires purpose and structure. Without a bonding focus, we experience physical and psychological deterioration. Eventually, death." "There has to be another way," Jake insisted. "Medical treatment, therapy, something." Cathara shook her head. "The conditioning runs too deep. It was designed to be permanent, ensuring absolute loyalty. These three represent the finest examples of their respective specializations. Vextar paid enormous sums to acquire them." Jake looked at each woman in turn, seeing past their exotic beauty to the intelligence and personality that flickered in their eyes. They were people, not property, regardless of what their genetics dictated. "All right," he said finally. "I accept the inheritance, but we're going to do things differently. You three aren't my servants. You're my advisors, partners. I need your expertise to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with all this." Mira's eyes widened slightly. "Partners? Equals," Jake confirmed. "I don't know anything about running a galactic business empire, but I'm guessing you three do. Help me understand what Vexitar built and we'll figure out how to move forward, together." For the first time since entering the room, all three women smiled genuinely. The transformation was remarkable. Suddenly, they seemed less like programmed servants and more like the brilliant, capable individuals Jake suspected they truly were. Cathara observed this exchange with obvious surprise. Most unusual, Vextar. Chose well, it seems. She stood and gathered her documents. "I will arrange for transportation to the consortium headquarters on Kepler Station. Your new life awaits, Jake Morrison." As the legal representative departed, Jake found himself alone with three alien women who were supposedly his property but whom he was determined to treat as something far more valuable, partners in an impossible adventure that was just beginning. "So," he said, attempting a smile despite his nervousness, "anyone want to explain to me exactly what I've gotten myself into?" Kepler Station floated in space like a massive crystalline flower, its bioluminescent towers pulsing with alien energy. The Joule Consortium headquarters occupied the entire central spire, a testament to the vast wealth Jake had inherited. As their shuttle docked, he felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a physical burden. The penthouse suite that served as both corporate headquarters and living quarters was larger than the entire level of Kronos 7 where Jake had lived. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the nebula beyond, while alien art worth more than most planetary economies adorned the walls. "This feels wrong," Jake muttered, standing in the center of the main living area. "I don't belong here." Mira, who had been conducting a security sweep of the premises, approached him. "Vextar believed you did. He was not given to impulsive decisions." Over the past week of travel, Jake had begun to see past the women's programmed deference to their true personalities. Mira was fierce and protective, with a tactical mind that analyzed every situation for potential threats. Her rare smiles transformed her entire face, revealing glimpses of the person she might have been without genetic conditioning. Vera possessed an almost supernatural ability to read people and situations, making her invaluable in navigating the complex web of alien politics surrounding the consortium. But Jake had also noticed her genuine curiosity about human culture, asking questions that revealed a sharp intellect hungry for knowledge. Luna was perhaps the most complex of the three. Her technological expertise bordered on genius, but she also displayed a playful creativity that suggested she dreamed of innovations beyond mere maintenance of existing systems. "I've been thinking," Jake announced, settling into one of the curved alien chairs, "about your conditioning. There has to be a way to break it." The three women exchanged those silent looks again. Vera spoke carefully. "Many have tried, Jake. The genetic modifications are too deeply integrated into our neural pathways. But what if we didn't break it?" Jake continued. "What if we redirected it instead? You said you need purpose and structure. Fine. Your purpose is to help me figure out how to run this business ethically. Your structure is that you're my partners, not my property." Luna's eyes lit up with interest. "You're suggesting we fulfill the conditioning requirements while operating as equals?" "Exactly. We work together because we choose to, not because you're programmed to serve me." That evening, Jake found himself alone with Mira on the suite's observation deck. She had changed from her tactical gear into something more casual, and the transformation was striking. Without her armor and weapons, she seemed more vulnerable, more human despite her alien features. "You're different from what we expected," she said quietly, her amber eyes reflecting the starlight beyond the windows. "What did you expect? Most who inherit bonded servants see us as exotic prizes, objects for pleasure or display." Her voice held old pain. "Vextar was kinder than most, but even he saw us primarily as assets." Jake moved closer, careful not to invade her personal space. "What do you see when you look in the mirror, Mira?" She was quiet for a long moment. "A weapon. A tool designed for violence and protection. I see a brilliant strategist who keeps us all safe. A woman who sacrificed her freedom to protect others, even if that choice was made for you before birth." Jake's voice was gentle but firm. "I see someone worth knowing, not just using." Mira turned to face him fully, and Jake was surprised to see tears glistening in her eyes. "The conditioning makes it difficult to think of myself as anything more than what I was designed to be." "Then let me think it for both of us, until you can believe it yourself." The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. When Mira leaned closer, Jake didn't pull away. Their first kiss was tentative, almost hesitant, but it carried the weight of two people, choosing connection over obligation. "This complicates things," Mira whispered against his lips. "The best things usually do," Jake replied. Over the following days, Jake threw himself into understanding the consortium's operations. With Vera's help, he navigated meetings with alien business partners, learning to read the subtle cues that indicated respect, hostility, or opportunity. Luna introduced him to the consortium's research divisions, where human ingenuity combined with alien technology produced innovations that impressed even seasoned xenobiologists. But it was during the quiet moments that Jake's relationships with all three women deepened. Vera taught him alien languages and customs while sharing her own dreams of exploring human art and literature. Luna showed him technological marvels while revealing her desire to create rather than merely maintain. The breakthrough came when Jake proposed restructuring the consortium's leadership. Instead of a single owner with absolute authority, he suggested a council structure where major decisions required consensus among partners. "You would give up absolute power?" Vera asked, her musical voice filled with wonder. "I never wanted it in the first place," Jake replied. "Besides, 4 minds are better than 1, especially when those minds have different perspectives and expertise." That night, as Jake worked late in his office reviewing contracts, he became aware of someone watching him. Vera stood in the doorway, her ethereal beauty enhanced by the soft lighting. "You should rest," she said, moving into the room with that hypnotic grace. "Soon. These shipping agreements are more complex than I thought." Vera settled into the chair beside his desk, her proximity filling the air with her subtle, intoxicating scent. "Jake, may I ask you something personal?" Of course. Do you find us unattractive? Not as servants or assets, but as women? Jake set down his data pad and looked at her directly. Vera, you're three of the most beautiful, intelligent, fascinating women I've ever met. But I won't let attraction cloud my judgment about what's right. And if we told you our attraction to you was genuine, not programmed, not conditioned, but real? The question hung in the air between them. Jake reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, and took her hand in his. Her skin was warm and soft, her fingers trembling slightly. Then I'd say we have a lot to figure out together, he said. Vera's smile was radiant as she leaned forward to kiss him, her lips soft and sweet against his. Unlike his kiss with Mira, this was gentle and exploratory, full of promise and possibility. But even as Jake found himself drawn deeper into these impossible relationships, warning signs were beginning to emerge. Business partners who had dealt respectfully with Vextar showed subtle signs of disdain when dealing with a human. Shipping routes that had operated smoothly for decades suddenly experienced mysterious delays and accidents. Luna brought him the disturbing news during their evening meal together. I've been analyzing our operational data, she said, her skin shifting to worried purple hues. Someone is systematically targeting our most profitable routes. Competitors? Jake asked. More than that. This feels coordinated, like someone wants to drive us out of business entirely. Mira nodded grimly. I've noticed increased surveillance around the station. We're being watched. Jake looked at the three women who had become so much more than servants or advisors. They were his partners, his friends, and increasingly, something deeper. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. Then we need to be ready, he said, because I'm not giving up what we're building here without a fight. The assassination attempt came at dawn, when the station's artificial lighting shifted to simulate sunrise. Jake was reviewing quarterly reports when Mira's combat instincts saved his life. She tackled him to the floor just as energy bolts seared through the space where his head had been, leaving smoking holes in the reinforced wall behind his desk. Stay down, Mira commanded, her sidearm appearing in her hand with practiced efficiency. She moved with lethal grace, returning fire through the shattered window while coordinating with station security through her comm unit. The attackers retreated within minutes, but the message was clear. Someone wanted Jake Morrison dead. Sexmore Kral, Vera announced during the emergency meeting that followed. Her ethereal beauty couldn't disguise the steel in her voice as she pulled up holographic displays of their primary competitor. He's been consolidating power among the old guard Zephyrian business families. A human controlling the Joule Consortium threatens everything they represent. The alien displayed on the hologram was imposing even by Zephyrian standards, nearly 8 feet tall with ceremonial scarring that indicated noble birth and military service. His golden eyes held the cold intelligence of a predator who had never known defeat. He's not just after the business, Luna added, her skin flickering through worried color patterns. I've been analyzing the attacks on our shipping routes. They're designed to make us look incompetent, to prove that humans can't handle interstellar commerce. Jake studied the data with growing anger. This wasn't just about money. It was about proving that humans were inferior, unworthy of equality with alien species. What do we know about his operations? Jake asked. Mira activated additional displays showing Kral's business empire. Weapons manufacturing primarily. He supplies arms to several minor conflicts in the outer systems. Profitable, but it requires maintaining certain relationships with unsavory elements. You mean he's an arms dealer who profits from keeping alien species fighting each other? Jake translated. Precisely. Your approach of ethical business practices threatens to expose the corruption that makes his empire possible. Over the following weeks, Jake and his companions were forced into a high-stakes game of corporate warfare, while staying one step ahead of increasingly deadly attacks. They moved frequently, using safe houses and secure facilities while gathering evidence of Kral's illegal operations. The constant danger drew them closer together. Shared peril had a way of stripping away pretense and revealing true character. Jake discovered that beneath Vera's diplomatic exterior lay a fierce protectiveness for those she cared about. Luna's technical brilliance was matched by surprising courage when their backs were against the wall. It was during one particularly harrowing escape from Kral's mercenaries that Jake's relationship with Vera deepened beyond mere attraction. They had taken refuge in an abandoned research station, while Mira and Luna worked to repair their damaged ship. "I thought we were going to die back there," Vera whispered, her usual composure shaken by how close the energy weapons had come to finding their mark. Jake pulled her closer on the makeshift bed they shared for warmth in the cold station. "Hey, we made it. Mira got us out. This time, but what about next time? What if something happens to you?" Her lavender skin seemed to glow in the dim emergency lighting. "I've never felt fear like this before. The conditioning was supposed to make us accept whatever fate befell our master. But with you..." "With me, what?" "With you, I want to live. Not just exist, not just serve, but truly live." Her eyes met his with startling intensity. "Is it wrong that I want you? Not because I'm programmed to, but because you make me feel things I didn't know I was capable of?" Jake's answer was to kiss her deeply, pouring all his own confused emotions into the contact. Vera responded with surprising passion, her musical voice becoming breathy whispers of desire as they explored each other with growing urgency. Their lovemaking was tender but intense, two people finding solace and connection in the midst of chaos. Vera's alien physiology provided unique sensations that left Jake breathless, while his human touch seemed to awaken responses in her that surprised them both. Afterward, as they lay intertwined in the narrow bed, Vera traced patterns on Jake's chest with her fingertips. "The others care for you too," she said quietly. "Luna watches you with such longing when she thinks no one is looking." Jake had noticed Luna's growing attention, the way her skin shifted to warmer hues when he praised her work or asked for her opinion on technical matters. "This is complicated. Only if you make it so. We were designed to share, Jake. Not as property, but as partners who understand that love doesn't diminish when it's multiplied." The next evening, Luna's opportunity came when she and Jake worked alone to decrypt files stolen from one of Kral's facilities. The brilliant scientist had shed her usual technical garments for something more feminine, her blue-purple skin seeming to glow with bioluminescent patterns that Jake found mesmerizing. "These encryption algorithms are beautiful," Luna said, her eyes bright with enthusiasm as she worked. "Elegant, complex like mathematical poetry." Jake smiled at her passion. "You really love what you do." "I love creating solutions, finding new ways to make things work better." She paused, looking at him directly. "I love working with someone who appreciates innovation instead of just demanding results." There was something in her tone that made Jake pay closer attention. Luna had always been the most reserved of the three women, hiding her emotions behind technical expertise. But now he could see the longing Vera had mentioned, the desire for something more than professional partnership. "Luna," he began, but she silenced him by placing a finger against his lips. "I know about you and the others," she said softly. "I know you care for all of us, and we care for you. I want you to know that my feelings are real, not conditioned, not programmed, real." When Jake kissed her, Luna's response was electric, literally. Her skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to sync with their heartbeats, creating a light show that was both beautiful and deeply intimate. Her touch carried subtle bioelectric currents that enhanced every sensation, making their connection feel like something beyond purely physical pleasure. Luna was more adventurous than Vera, her scientific curiosity extending to exploring the differences between human and Zephyrian physiology. Their lovemaking became an exploration of sensation and response that left both of them gasping and amazed. But their growing intimacy was interrupted by Mira's urgent summons. She had discovered evidence that changed everything. Vexitar wasn't killed by business rivals, Mira announced, her tactical mind having pieced together fragments of intelligence. He was poisoned by Kral personally. This isn't just about the consortium. It's revenge for Vexitar's progressive policies that were undermining traditional Zephyrian power structures. Jake felt cold fury building in his chest. The alien who had saved had been murdered by someone who saw progressive thinking as a threat to established order. "Then it's time we stopped running," Jake said grimly. "Kral wants a war? He's got one." Luna's technical expertise had uncovered Kral's hidden assets, while Vera's diplomatic contacts provided allies among other alien species who were tired of the old guard's oppressive policies. But it was Mira who provided the final piece of their counterattack. "Kral is planning something big," she reported. "A coordinated assault on multiple consortium facilities designed to cripple us permanently. But I think I know how we can turn his own trap against him." As they prepared for what could be their final confrontation, Jake looked at the three remarkable women who had become his partners in every sense of the word. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, not as master and servants, but as equals united by choice, trust, and love. The final confrontation took place in the most unlikely of venues, the Galactic Trade Authority's annual summit on Centauri Prime. Hundreds of alien dignitaries and business leaders had gathered for what was supposed to be a routine conference on interstellar commerce regulations. Zexmore Kral had planned to use the gathering to publicly expose Jake as incompetent and seize control of the Joule Consortium through legal manipulation. Instead, Jake turned it into Kral's downfall. "Honorable delegates," Jake addressed the assembly, his voice carrying clearly through the vast amphitheater despite his nervousness. Beside him, Mira, Vera, and Luna stood as equal partners rather than silent servants, a sight that caused murmurs throughout the alien audience. "I stand before you not as a human interloper trying to claim what doesn't belong to him, but as someone who discovered that progressive thinking transcends species boundaries." On the massive holographic displays surrounding the chamber, Luna's technical expertise painted a damning picture of Kral's operations. Hidden weapons shipments to conflict zones, assassination contracts, and bribery of trade officials scrolled past in undeniable detail. Vera had spent weeks building a coalition of alien species who were tired of the traditional power structures that kept smaller civilizations oppressed. Representatives from a dozen worlds stood to voice their support for the reforms Jake proposed: fair trade practices, technology sharing, and an end to the exploitation that had enriched families like Kral's for generations. "These accusations are fabricated," Kral roared, his imposing frame rising from his seat in the Zephyrian delegation. "This human seeks to destroy everything our civilization has built." "Your civilization," Mira interjected, her voice cutting through the chamber with military precision, "was built on the suffering of others, including the murder of Vextar Zul." The accusation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Murder, especially of someone as respected as Vextar, was a crime that demanded justice under every known legal system. Luna activated another display, this one showing molecular analysis of Vextar's remains. Zephyrian neural toxin, specifically engineered to mimic natural death. Only 3 facilities in known space have the capability to synthesize this compound, and records show that Zexmore Kral's personal physician requisitioned the necessary components 6 months before Vextar's death. The evidence was overwhelming, but Kral wasn't finished. "Even if these allegations were true," he snarled, "what does it matter? A human controls 12% of interstellar commerce. The natural order has been violated." "The natural order," Jake replied calmly, "is cooperation, not domination. The human species didn't reach the stars by conquering others. We got here by learning from them, by building partnerships based on mutual respect." He gestured to his 3 companions. "These remarkable women weren't my inheritance, they're my partners. They choose to work with me not because they're programmed to serve, but because we're building something better together." The session that followed was intense, with legal representatives from multiple species presenting evidence and arguments. But the outcome was never really in doubt. Kral's empire crumbled as world after world withdrew their support, unwilling to be associated with murder and corruption. The arms dealer himself was taken into custody by Galactic Authority peacekeepers, his golden eyes blazing with hatred as he was led away. "This isn't over, human," he spat. "Others will continue what I started." "Maybe," Jake acknowledged. But they'll have to deal with a galaxy that's learned to expect better. In the weeks that followed, Jake worked with his partners to restructure not just the Joule consortium, but the entire approach to interstellar business. The profits remained substantial, but they were shared more equitably among workers and partner worlds. Technology developed by consortium researchers was licensed fairly rather than hoarded. The transformation wasn't without challenges. Some alien species remained suspicious of human leadership, while others tried to exploit what they saw as naive idealism. But Jake had learned much about leadership from watching Vextar's recordings, and his partners provided expertise in areas where human experience fell short. The most significant change came when Jake formally dissolved the bonding contracts that had made Mira, Vera, and Luna his legal property. The ceremony took place in the consortium headquarters, with Cathara serving as official witness. By the authority vested in me by the Galactic Trade Authority, the Zephyrian legal expert announced, I hereby declare the bonding contracts null and void. You are free citizens of the galaxy, with all rights and privileges therein. Jake watched, as the three women he had come to love processed their freedom. For beings who had never known life outside of service, the concept was both exhilarating and terrifying. So what happens now? Mira asked, her amber eyes uncertain for perhaps the first time since Jake had known her. Now you choose, Jake replied. Stay, go, explore the galaxy, start new lives, whatever makes you happy. The silence stretched for several heartbeats before Vera began to laugh, her musical voice filling the room with joy. You beautiful, naive human, she said fondly. Don't you understand? We already chose. We chose you. And the life we're building together. Luna nodded emphatically, her skin shifting through pleased blues and purples. Freedom isn't about running away from what makes us happy. It's about having the right to embrace it. Besides, Mira added with a rare grin, someone has to keep you alive long enough to see if this crazy experiment in ethical business actually works. That evening, as artificial stars glittered beyond the headquarters' massive windows, Jake found himself on the observation deck with all three women. They had shed the formal attire of the day's ceremonies for comfortable clothing that emphasized their roles as partners rather than servants. The conversation was easy, filled with plans for the future and dreams that had seemed impossible just months before. But as the evening progressed, Jake became aware of the subtle ways the women were positioning themselves around him, not competing for his attention, but creating an atmosphere of shared intimacy. Jake, Luna said softly, her bioluminescent patterns beginning their subtle dance. We've been thinking. About what? Vera moved closer, her ethereal beauty enhanced by the starlight. About us, all of us, what we want this relationship to be. Mira's voice held unusual gentleness as she spoke. We were designed to share, but we're choosing to share. There's a difference. The implication was clear, and Jake felt his pulse quicken as he realized what they were suggesting. Are you sure? This is complicated doesn't begin to cover it. The best things usually are, Mira reminded him, echoing his own words from months before. What followed was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. The three women approached their shared intimacy with the same cooperation and consideration they brought to their business partnership. There was no jealousy or competition, only a desire to explore the depth of connection possible between four people who had chosen to build a life together. Their lovemaking was tender and passionate by turns, with each woman contributing her unique perspective and desires to the experience. Luna's bioelectric touch enhanced every sensation, while Vera's intuitive understanding of emotion guided the rhythm of their connection. Mira's protective nature transformed into fierce tenderness, her warrior's strength becoming gentle power that sheltered and cherished. For Jake, the experience was overwhelming in the best possible way. These weren't servants fulfilling programmed functions, but partners expressing genuine love and desire. The difference transformed what could have been merely physical pleasure into something transcendent. Afterward, as they lay intertwined on the suite's expansive bed, Jake reflected on the impossible journey that had brought them together. No regrets? He asked quietly. Only that Vextar didn't live to see what his gift became, Vera replied, her head resting on his shoulder. He knew, Luna said with scientific certainty. Why else would he have chosen you? He saw something. In that moment on Chronos 7 that even you didn't recognize. What's that? Mira's voice was drowsy but certain. The capacity to see people instead of property, to choose cooperation over domination. The human gift for making things better instead of just more profitable. 6 months later, the Joule Consortium had become the model for progressive interstellar business. Profit-sharing agreements with partner worlds had actually increased revenue while improving conditions for billions of workers across dozens of species. The research divisions had produced breakthrough technologies that benefited everyone, rather than just the wealthy elite. Jake stood in the same observation deck where his life had changed forever, but now he wasn't alone. Mira was coordinating security for their upcoming expansion into 3 new star systems. Her tactical expertise ensuring that their rapid growth didn't compromise safety. Vera was preparing for diplomatic meetings with species that had never traded with humans before, her cultural knowledge opening doors that had seemed permanently closed. Luna was designing the next generation of spacecraft that would make interstellar travel faster and safer for everyone. They were partners in every sense of the word, in business, in life, and in love. The bonding that had once enslaved them had been transformed into choices freely made and constantly reaffirmed. As Jake watched the stars wheel overhead, he thought about the simple act of kindness that had started everything. Saving one life had led to transforming thousands of others, proving that the human capacity for compassion could indeed change the galaxy. Behind him, 3 remarkable women worked on building a better future, their different strengths combining, with his own to create something none of them could have achieved alone. It wasn't the inheritance Vextar had intended to leave, but it was exactly what the galaxy needed. Proof that cooperation could triumph over exploitation, that love could conquer conditioning, and that the best empires were built not on dominance but on the freely given partnership of equals.